Beneath the golden sun of Egypt, where tourists marvel at the timeless majesty of the pyramids and sail dreamily along the Nile, lies a forgotten world.
Hallelujah!
And they say Garbage City.
Just a few miles from Cairo's most photographed landmarks, there's a place where garbage isn't just trash, it's life. In Manshiyat Naser, known by locals as Garbage City, entire families live among mountains of waste. Children laugh and run through alleys lined with plastic bottles. Mothers sort through scraps like archaeologists of the modern world, but instead of treasures, they seek survival. Number 1, inside Cairo's Garbage City. Tucked behind the eastern edge of Cairo, where the dusty ridges of Mokattam Mountain cast long shadows over the city, lies a place the world rarely talks about. It's called Manshiyat Naser, but locals know it simply as Garbage City. A name as jarring as it is real. This isn't a nickname born from exaggeration. This is a literal truth. Manshiyat Naser is home to a vast, tightly knit community known as the Zabbaleen, a Coptic Christian group whose name means garbage people in Arabic. For generations, they've survived by collecting, sorting, and recycling Cairo's waste. Not just a few bags. We're talking about more than 9,000 tons of garbage every single day, most of which passes through their hands before it disappears from the city's polished tourist brochures. But let's back up a bit. This strange and resilient community didn't start out as part of the city's plan. Back in the early 1970s, as Egypt faced waves of urban migration, thousands of families moved into Cairo in search of opportunity. With nowhere to go, many settled on the outskirts right here by the cliffs of Mokattam. What began as a cluster of shacks turned into a neighborhood, and what was meant to be temporary became slowly a permanent scar stitched into the city's eastern flank. Today, Manshiyat Naser is estimated to house over 250,000 people. That's about the population of a mid-sized American city compressed into crumbling concrete buildings, often unfinished, many without proper doors, roofs, or sanitation. Entire families live side by side in single rooms, surrounded by bags of trash stacked not just on the street, but inside homes, beneath beds, on kitchen counters, in children's play spaces. There's a haunting rhythm to life here. A melody of clinking glass bottles, the buzz of flies, and the distant hum of motorbikes hauling loads of plastic and paper. Power outages are frequent. Water, when it runs, is often polluted. Clinics are few and far between, schools even fewer. And yet in this chaos there is order, there is community, there is history. Garbage City isn't just a slum, it's a system, a grassroots recycling machine that shockingly processes and reuses over 80% of the trash it collects. For comparison, most modern waste systems in wealthy countries only manage around 20 to 30%. Think about that. The most efficient recycling community in the world isn't run by a government or a tech startup. It's run by families, often barefoot, often unseen, working in rooms overflowing with what the rest of Cairo throws away. But the cost of this efficiency is staggering. Imagine eating dinner next to fermenting food waste, falling asleep to the scent of rotting meat, watching your children play next to broken glass and rusting metal. This isn't just poverty, it's endurance. It's survival in its rawest form. There's an irony here that cuts deep. Just a short drive from this mountain of waste stand the iconic pyramids of Giza, symbols of Egypt's ancient grandeur visited by millions each year. Tourists float along the Nile, sipping cocktails and snapping selfies, while only a few miles away, a child in Garbage City is digging through yesterday's leftovers, hoping to find something still edible. This is not a story of shame. It's a story of contrast, of a city split not by politics, but by visibility. The clean and the unclean, the seen and the unseen. Cairo's skyline hides this pocket of resilience, this invisible ecosystem built on trash and tenacity. Manshiyat Naser may never appear in travel guides, but it should not for its tragedy, but for its truth. Because in the heart of Cairo, beneath the weight of discarded plastic and forgotten dreams, people are not just surviving, They are building, adapting, and enduring in ways that challenge what we think we know about dignity, poverty, and purpose. Number 2. Life among trash. The sun barely rises over Cairo before the streets of Manshiyat Naser come alive, not with birdsong or the smell of breakfast, but with the rattle of metal carts, the buzzing of flies, and the soft crunch of plastic underfoot. This is how a new day begins in Garbage City. For the Zabbaleen community, morning doesn't mean coffee or news headlines. It means work, immediate, physical, and often overwhelming. By 5 o'clock, men, women, and even children are already on the move, navigating the labyrinth of narrow alleys to begin what they've done for generations, collecting garbage from the wealthier districts of Cairo. They use whatever means they can: motorbikes, donkey carts, or three-wheeled trucks barely held together by rust and tape. Their destination: the towering apartment buildings of Zamalek, Garden City, and Heliopolis, where Cairo's elite leave their trash outside each morning. For most, this waste is out of sight, out of mind, but for the Zabbaleen, it's currency, it's food, it's survival. Back in Manshiyat Naser, the second half of the day begins the sorting. Inside dim, stuffy rooms lit by a single bulb or slivers of sunlight through cracked walls, families work like human recycling machines. Plastic bottles are separated from aluminum cans. Cardboard is stacked, flattened, tied. Food waste is piled for pig feed, and broken electronics are stripped for copper wires. There are no gloves, no masks, no protective gear, just bare hands, sharpened instincts, and the pressure to finish fast, because tomorrow brings another load. Among the most striking and heartbreaking details is the role of children. While many kids around the world spend their mornings in classrooms, a large percentage of Zabbaleen children, especially under the age of 14, do not attend school. Instead, they help their parents and older siblings sort trash, often for 10 to 12 hours a day. A 2024 report by UNICEF Egypt estimated that more than 60% of children in Manshiyat Naser are involved in informal labor, most of it waste-related.
3,000 people live in Garbage City, which is officially...
Hallelujah!
Now imagine what that means in practice. A child crouched next to a pile of medical waste or handling sharp glass, inhaling fumes from rotting food and burning plastic. There is no playground here, only piles of trash taller than a house. And the living conditions, cramped, is an understatement. Entire families squeeze into one-room dwellings often no bigger than 10 square meters. Rancid smells cling to the walls. Mold and flies claim every corner. Noise is constant. Trucks rumble, dogs bark, fires crackle. And with so much flammable material stacked around, the risk of fire is terrifyingly high. In one such room lives Mariam, a 34-year-old single mother with 3 children. She wakes at 4 every morning, walks for over an hour to collect trash, and spends the rest of her day sorting waste with her children by her side. On a good day, they earn the equivalent of $1.50, barely enough for bread, tea, and soap. There's no running water in her home, no bathroom, just resilience and routine. "I don't hate the garbage," Mariam once said to a visiting aid worker. "It feeds my children. It lets us live." Her words are as heavy as they are honest. Because here's the truth. In Manshiyat Naser, garbage is not just a byproduct. It is the foundation of existence. It is the job, the shelter, the inheritance. Without it, there is no income. With it, there is no peace. And yet, despite the odds, there is a strange kind of order, an ecosystem built entirely on what others discard. In the heart of filth, there is purpose. In the middle of chaos, there is structure. The Zabbaleen don't just live among trash, they build their lives on top of it. As we move deeper into this story, we begin to ask, what does it say about a society when the most efficient recycling system in the country is run by those who have the least? And even more haunting, What happens to this community if the garbage ever runs out? Number 3. The Zabbaleen recycling system. If collecting garbage is how the Zabbaleen survive, then sorting it is how they build a future day by day, bag by bag. Once the trash is brought back from Cairo's wealthier neighborhoods, a remarkable system quietly kicks into gear. There are no conveyor belts, no digital sensors, no official trucks with city logos. Instead, it's homes that act as workshops, kitchens turn into sorting stations, stairwells become storage for bales of paper or bundles of bottles. Every family plays a part, and each one has a specialty. One household might deal only in plastics, sorting high-density polyethylene from low-grade wrappers. Another handles just aluminum, stacking thousands of soda cans into shimmering towers. Others focus on glass or scrap metal. Even organic waste is set aside, used as animal feed or compost. It's a division of labor shaped by decades of necessity, passed down like a family recipe. This deep specialization isn't just impressive, it's efficient. According to a 2024 study by Cairo's Ain Shams University, the Zabbaleen community recycles between 85 to 90% of what they collect, compared to less than 20% through Cairo's official municipal systems. In fact, this rate rivals and in many cases surpasses that of developed countries where billion-dollar infrastructures still struggle with contamination and public compliance. It's a circular economy in its rawest, most human form. Families sort, traders buy, materials are bundled and sold to local factories, sometimes even exported. Recycled plastic gets turned into containers, aluminum becomes new sheets or cans, paper gets pulped and repurposed. The entire neighborhood functions like a giant decentralized recycling plant, without uniforms, without funding, and without recognition. And yet this system remains largely unacknowledged. Most Zabbaleen families operate informally without business licenses or worker protections. They rarely receive support from the government, despite being responsible for handling over 5,000 tons of Cairo's daily waste, according to Egypt's Ministry of Environment. Still, pride runs deep. In one courtyard, you'll find an elderly man meticulously flattening tin cans with a rhythm that sounds like percussion. In another, a teenage girl uses her hands to sift through mountains of colored plastic with the ease of someone who's been doing it since she could walk. There's technique here, skill, and above all, purpose. This is more than just labor. It's a quiet kind of defiance. A proof that even in the most marginalized corners of the city, people can create systems of value out of what the rest of the world throws away. And it's working. So while urban planners debate recycling policy, and while wealthier neighborhoods install smart bins and talk about green futures, the Zabbaleen are already doing it. Not with hashtags or corporate slogans, but with their hands, their knowledge, and their grit. Their model may be informal, but its success undeniable. And that raises a bigger question. What could happen if instead of being ignored, this community was supported, respected, and empowered? Because sometimes innovation doesn't come from the top. Sometimes it rises from the trash. Number 4. Education in Garbage City. Amid the noise of metal, the stench of waste, and the daily grind of survival, one sound in Manshiyat Naser rises above the rest, a child's voice reading out loud in a classroom that barely has a roof. In Garbage City, education is not a given. It is a struggle. Most children here are born into work, not school, with families relying heavily on each extra pair of hands to sort and sell trash. Formal education becomes a luxury many simply can't afford. A 2024 UNICEF report revealed that over 65% of children in the Zabbaleen community either drop out early or never enroll in school at all. For them, the weight of poverty comes with the price of lost childhoods. But despite these challenges, something remarkable is happening. In the heart of this forgotten neighborhood, a handful of small schools and community centers are lighting the way forward, brick by brick, book by book. One of them is Mahaba School, founded by local volunteers and international donors. Mahaba means love in Arabic, and here love looks like chalk dust, recycled notebooks, and the sound of children learning to spell their names for the very first time. Inside these modest classrooms, students learn basic literacy, math, and science, but that's not all. They're also taught life skills that go beyond the textbook: hygiene, conflict resolution, and even basic computer literacy. It's education with dignity crafted for resilience. Another key player is the Association for the Protection of the Environment, a non-profit that has been working in the area since the late 1980s. Their programs include sewing workshops, artisan craft training, and computer classes, especially for young girls who are often the most at risk of being pulled out of school or married off too early. In fact, the organization's Girls Empowerment Initiative has already helped over 1,500 girls avoid early marriage, continue their education, and gain skills that make them self-reliant. In a place where futures are usually determined by birth, this kind of intervention is nothing short of revolutionary. Let me tell you about Yasmin. She's 13 years old, born and raised in Manshiyat Naser. Her father passed away when she was 6. Her mother works long hours sorting waste. For years, Yasmin helped with the sorting too, but one afternoon she wandered into a literacy class at Mahaba. She sat in the back, shy and barefoot, listening more than speaking. Today, Yasmin is on a scholarship to a secondary school outside Garbage City. She dreams of becoming a doctor, not because she wants to escape her roots, but because she wants to come back and change them. "I want to open a clinic here," she says, "so no mother has to choose between medicine and food." That's the power of education. It doesn't just uplift one person. It echoes through generations. And this is more than just one heartwarming story. According to the 2025 Egyptian Ministry of Social Solidarity, communities with targeted educational support programs see a long-term decrease in child labor by over 40% and an increase in household income within a decade. Education plants the seed, but over time it grows into economic stability, better health, and stronger civic participation. So yes, Garbage City still fights poverty, still battles stigma, still struggles for recognition. But inside these small schools and quiet classrooms, hope is not only alive, it's learning to write its own name. And maybe, just maybe, the children of the Zabbaleen will become the ones to rewrite the future of Cairo itself. Number 5. Threats to the Zabbaleen. For generations, the Zabbaleen have been Cairo's silent recyclers, working in the shadows, sorting the city's trash, and turning waste into worth. But now this community stands at a dangerous crossroads, not because their system is failing, but because the world around them is changing faster than they can adapt. Let's rewind to the year 2003. The Egyptian government, aiming to modernize waste management, signed contracts with several multinational sanitation companies from Europe. These corporations were brought in to handle garbage collection with trucks, uniforms, and official infrastructure. On paper, it looked like progress, but on the ground, it was something else entirely. Suddenly, the Zabbaleen were cut out of the system they had built with their bare hands. Residents in wealthier neighborhoods were told to leave their trash in bins the Zabbaleen couldn't access. Their informal network collapsed almost overnight. By 2005, household income in Garbage City had dropped by nearly 40%, according to a study by Cairo University's Department of Urban Sociology. And then came a devastating blow. In the year 2009, during the global panic over swine flu, or H1N1, the Egyptian government ordered the mass slaughter of nearly 300,000 pigs. For the Zabbaleen, who used pigs to consume organic waste and maintain sanitation in their neighborhoods, this wasn't just a health precaution, it was an economic disaster. Without pigs, the system for processing food waste broke down. Piles of rotting garbage grew, and with it, public health risks. Worse still, many families lost their primary source of protein and income overnight. The community reeled, and just as they began to recover, a new threat appeared, this time in the form of concrete. In recent years, Cairo's urban planners have floated resettlement proposals to move Zabbaleen families into modern apartment blocks on the outskirts of the city. On the surface, it sounds like improvement, clean buildings, electricity, plumbing, but these high-rises lack something far more critical: proximity to work. with no access to garbage collection routes and no infrastructure for recycling. Many families who were relocated found themselves unemployed within months. Some returned to Garbage City. Others disappeared into informal settlements elsewhere. And if that weren't enough, the Zabbaleen faced something deeper, the weight of social stigma. In the eyes of many, they are still seen as dirty, low-class, untouchable. Their children are bullied in public schools. Employers hesitate to hire them. Hospitals turn them away or charge more. According to a 2023 survey by the Egyptian Center for Social Inclusion, nearly 70% of Zabbaleen adults say they've experienced discrimination when trying to access public services. And yet this community has no legal standing. Most of the Zabbaleen live without formal property titles. Their recycling businesses aren't licensed. Their work, though vital, is not recognized by law. That means no government support, no social insurance, no protection from eviction. So here we are, Cairo's most efficient waste managers. The people who recycle nearly 90% of what they touch are being pushed out of the very system they sustain. Why? Because they don't fit the polished image of a modern city. But here's the hard truth. You can't erase poverty with paint. You can't replace an organic working system with imported policies and expect it to thrive. And you definitely can't build a sustainable future while ignoring the people who've been carrying its weight all along. The Zabbaleen don't need pity. They need recognition. They need policies that protect, not displace. And most of all, they need a seat at the table where decisions are made about the waste they've spent decades mastering. Because if Cairo loses the Zabbaleen, it's not just losing a community. It's losing its most effective, most invisible, and most underappreciated environmental solution. Number 6, hope from waste. For every challenge faced by the Zabbaleen, there's a quiet counterforce rising from within the community, a movement not of protest, but of progress. It begins with hands, the same hands that once sorted soda cans and food scraps, now crafting rugs, weaving fabric, sculpting recycled paper into art. In Manshiyat Naser, recycling is no longer just survival. It's becoming something more, a path to empowerment. Across the neighborhood, small cooperatives are forming, many led by women offering training in upcycling crafts, textile production, and handmade goods. One standout is a workshop run by the Association for the Protection of the Environment, where discarded paper is turned into greeting cards, lampshades, and decorative boxes. These products, once made in silence, are now sold in gift shops across Cairo and even exported to Europe through fair trade programs. By 2025, over 600 families are earning additional income from these recycling-based micro-enterprises, according to a recent report by the Egyptian Social Innovation Fund. That's more than just money. It's dignity. It's agency. But the Zabbaleen aren't doing this alone. Over the past decade, international and local nonprofit organizations have stepped in not as saviors, but as partners. They've provided seed funding for housing renovations, mobile health clinics, school scholarships, and clean water access. Organizations like UNICEF, Habitat for Humanity, and Egyptian foundations such as Tawassul and Spirit of Youth have played critical roles in bridging the gap between informal resilience and formal recognition. In the past 3 years alone, over $2 million in targeted support have been invested directly into the Zabbaleen community funding projects that range from solar panels on rooftops to literacy programs for women over the age of 30. These aren't charity handouts. These are catalysts fueling momentum that already exists. And then something unexpected started to happen. As awareness grew, so did curiosity. Small tour groups, often led by university students, began visiting Garbage City, not to gawk, but to learn. Today, a growing number of Zabbaleen have become community tour guides offering educational, respectful walks through their neighborhood. They explain the recycling process, share their history, and even sell handmade goods at the end of each tour. It's grassroots storytelling at its finest, and it's working. In fact, a 2024 cultural perception survey by the Cairo Urban Development Network found that positive public sentiment toward the Zabbaleen increased by 38% after direct exposure to these community-led tours or documentaries. That's a massive shift from stigma to respect, from pity to pride. But we can't stop here. Because hope by itself is fragile, it needs support, it needs action. So what can you do right now? You can share this story, you can support the organizations doing this work, you can challenge the narrative that says solutions have to come from the top down. The Zabbaleen have already built the most efficient recycling system in Egypt. What they need now is visibility, protection, and partnership. This isn't about saving anyone. It's about recognizing brilliance where the world least expects it and choosing to stand beside it. Because sometimes the brightest ideas are found not in boardrooms or laboratories, but in the back alleys of a place the map calls Manshiyat Naser, and the people proudly call home. From ancient pyramids to narrow alleyways stacked with trash, our journey through Cairo has peeled back the layers of a city most tourists never see. We've walked through the heart of Garbage City, where the Zabbaleen community transforms waste into survival, into structure, into meaning. This isn't just a story about poverty. It's a story about strength, about innovation that blooms in the margins, about people who, despite being overlooked by systems, build their own with nothing more than grit, knowledge, and the belief that their work matters. In a world obsessed with perfection, the Zabbaleen remind us that dignity can thrive in the most unexpected places, that even in mountains of trash, you can find purpose, hope, and humanity. If this story moved you, if it opened your eyes to a side of Cairo you hadn't imagined, consider supporting this message. Hit that like button, subscribe to NVL Travel Documentary for more untold stories from around the world, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's help this story travel farther than the waste ever could, because sometimes the smallest communities carry the biggest truths.